feels so good to be sure. Good to be secure in my own skin. Christ is light within. When few comprehend what love is, feels so amazing to be loved and to love with amazing love. The world can't see what I'm speaking of. It's a crazy love. It feels so great to have unchanging love that will never hurt me and definitely won't desert. See, true love transcends sexuality, and it transposes to the highest key. In fact, it forgives when it's wounded deeply. Agape, hey, it emanates from the God in me. And I could love you for you, cause he loves me for me.
Seems like yesterday, 25 with my eyes open, you came my way, realized I should let you in. Welcome to my heart, you're part of me. I'm so glad to see you, I'm so glad to be with you. It feels so good, it feels so good to have someone, yeah, who loves me, who loves me. And wish I could repay the one, hey, who loves me. No more pointless choices, useless voices holding me down. Say goodbye to the prior. Just your love and kindness. I'm reminded I need you around. Beside me, you guide me. Ooh, it feels so good. It feels so good.
All right, we're here again for another session, and we will be unapologetically candid. Another candid conversation about the black community. We've had fun, but this time we're talking about the black woman, African-American woman, the backbone of the black community. But before we get started, I want to do I have my clicker? I want to put out a word for NASV. There's an organization that helps prevent and to inform and to help people that have been, thank you, sir, people that have been sexually abused. Are we here? Yes, CMO NAVS, Network Against Sexual Violence. If you know of any children or young people, or if you are mothers or if neighbors or teachers, especially with COVID been going on, people have been at home, and you'd be amazed at the numbers of how many people have been physically and sexually abused. NASV is a great organization, and if you would go to the site and if you want to report or if you want to support, report or support, it would be great, okay? Before we go any further, I'm not going to ask these young ladies to introduce themselves just yet, but we will ask them to give us a little bit of information about themselves, and I'm going to ask them before they're going to tell us their names, they're going to tell us what they do or anything they want to share about themselves, but I'm going to ask them before they stop speaking to give us one word that would define them. If someone didn't know them, what one word would you give that would define you? So I'm giving you that while we watch this. Can we get the lights? I want to show this quick video that I think sums up this session for the evening.
Black Girls Rock.
All right. Welcome back. I'm so excited about this panel. We have been discussing the black community, and you can't stop speaking or talking about the black community without talking about the backbone of the black community, and that is the black woman that has been so strong for so many years. And so we wanted to invite some very successful black women tonight, and I'm going to give them the opportunity right now to introduce themselves, maybe what they do, and before they finish speaking, just give us one word that would define them. Who wants to go first? I'm not going to ask anyone to take a question or to go first. I'm just going to put it out there, and we're just going to have a conversation. You guys be the fly on the wall. And give us feedback if you want to.
I'll go first, if it's okay,
Yes,
with the
ma'am.
other ladies. My name is Sonia Rucker. I am the Vice President of Equity, Access, and Behavioral Health, the Dean of Students, and Title IX Coordinator at Southeast Missouri State University. I'm from Sikeston, Missouri, grew up in this area. And one word to describe me would be evolving.
Evolving. That's all right. That's good. All right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tamara Zellers-Buck. I am a professor and chairperson of the Department of Mass Media at Southeast. I've been there since 2001. I am a native of Charleston. And I forgive you for being from Sikeston. But if I had to choose a word to describe me, I believe I'd say faithful, because anyone who knows me knows that I am faithful in my commitments and faithful in my religious life.
All right.
Hi, I'm Sophia Scott, and I am a professor in the Engineering and Technology Department and current interim chairperson for the Department of Agriculture. Talk to me later about that if you want to know all the story about that. I have been at Southeast for 20 years, so I actually came in 2001 with Tamara. And a word that would describe me, I would say I have a new word for what's been going on in my life. And so my new word is sassy.
All right.
Oh, well, I have one concern with the video. You forgot one other black woman, my mom. Well, I'm sure everybody moms, right? Because one thing you mentioned, successful. And so as we have this panel, it's important to give the terminology of words. Success is defined differently from different people. Backbone is defined differently from different people. So understanding the terms of what's being discussed in the audience, it's easy to apply to your life and better understanding of what goes on here. Well, let me see some hands. Anybody from Cleveland, Ohio? Oh, sorry. So, born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a city girl, and I moved here 20 years ago. I was accepted a position as assistant women basketball coach. I was a collegiate athlete. Currently, I serve as assistant director for academic support centers, and I'm with the educational access programs and outreach. So that's just a snippet. I'm sure we'll be able to discuss more. A word that describes me. You don't always want to be defined by a moment or a word. So I will define my personal professional experience here in Cape Girardeau as a connector. So I will go on 20 years of experience of being a connector. Sometimes your title don't match your expertise and experience, but if you're a black woman, you know who you are, you know how to use it, so.
Excellent, excellent,
By the
excellent.
way, I'm from Kansas City, so I didn't say that.
Ah, you probably sad then, huh? That's okay. All right, let's get right into it because we got some excellent topics, and I'm just going to put them out there. Let's go. Matriarch versus patriarch. You guys know that this title of this session is about black women, the backbone of the black community. This question speaks to that. Are there societal conditions and historical considerations, listen closely, are there societal conditions and historical considerations that prompt the idea that black women are considered the backbone of the black community? The backbone of the black community. It's a tongue twister. So in other words, why are black women considered the backbone of the black community? Is there considerations or historical considerations that prompt that idea? Where did this come from? Why did you own the title? This is matriarch versus patriarch. I'm just being the devil's advocate, or the angel's advocate. Let's put it like that, the angel's advocate.
Go, angel's advocate. You want to go ahead?
I just want him to break down backbone so everybody understand that.
Well, it's kind of,
I understand it, but my terminology, understanding may be different than others. So if you break it down.
it's kind of a cultural thing, but I want you to define it with your microphone.
Well, I'm gonna take another spin. I kind of like to wait because every time I talk, I try to gear to what we have an answer to, but you also have to gear to the research you do and the experiences you have. Backbone, I would consider, is a woman, but I was raised with two parents. So many times the woman, from my experience, was the voice. So you assuming she was the backbone. Well, no, they had roles and positions. She was the voice, she had her role, my dad has his role. He was also considered a backbone too. Sometimes people think that women are just the backbone, but sometimes men playing silent, just be intelligent as the women that they connect with or partners with. So a backbone is someone that can hold a position, be independent and strong, but also open to others and being involved with others to be able to do that. So I just kind of have a little different experience about that. When I read the questions, I easily tied it to my mom, but I can easily tie it to the men that were behind the moms that had to stand out front because they at times had more resources and access to do things than the black man, still to today. And so, and that's from experience being here 20 years as a young woman and growing to an older woman, so.
So when I think of this question and I think of that term backbone, I like to put things, I'm a journalist, so I like to put things in very practical terms. And if you think about physicality and the body, the backbone connects everything. You know, it connects the head to the extremities. And when it hurts, everything hurts. When your back, you can't survive without a backbone. You know, you think about this. So from a physical standpoint, if we're saying that black women are the backbone, I see that as not only being a part of black society, but really being a part of all society. Because you have to think about historically, you're asking us to look at historical perspectives, and historically, we've been in houses. We've been in, that weren't ours. We've been in communities that weren't ours. We have soothed communities that were ours or weren't ours. We are all over the place. And we have been that connector that Tamika is talking about in a multitude of ways. So for me, thinking about black women as a backbone, I think it's been because of circumstance. We've been put into positions where we had to provide structure. And that's really what the spine does. It provides structure, right? So we're communicating to the different groups and communities that we work in in meaningful ways to provide structure that enable us all to continue. That's what I think of.
I agree as well. Yeah, and I'll kind of play off of Dr. Buck here. I think also we have to factor in the historical aspects of Black women and the history of slavery and the fact that as Black women, what they had to endure in terms of not having control of their bodies, whether or not they were going to be able to partner with the person whom they loved or just be breeded with someone whom the slave master thought they should breed with, whether or not the children that they gave birth to were going to be allowed to be raised with them or if they were going to be sold away. And wherever Black women went, because they were basically essentially the source of life, you naturally, I think, take on that role of being the structure, the backbone, where the source of every other person in your family comes from. And in my family as well, I mean, I grew up in a family with the mother and the father, but we all knew my grandmother ruled the family. I mean, she had 6 daughters, and all of their husbands knew my grandmother ruled their family, whether she was living in their homes or not. But historically, she was the source where everyone, you know, came from which you came. So, of course, you know, you consider that the backbone.
I have a little different experience. So my mom is full-blooded Mexican. And my stepdad is Black. And so I did grow up in a 2-person, you know, household where I had a mother and a father. The father didn't come into the picture until I was like 3. So, but my mom was strength and taught me that, you know, to own my Blackness and, of course, my other side too, but and to be that strength and that backbone for family, you know. And I agree with Sonia. When you look historically at how Black women have had to come up and be that strength, and then have that Black man as their partner, I think that is really, really huge, because I think right now there is just a target on Black men, and we need to do something about that in society, but we'll get to that in a little bit later.
That's awesome. It sounds like you guys grew up in pretty friendly homes. When we talk about the Black community, we might be talking about, you know, a different aspect of the Black community. When I think about that, I don't know if anybody came here to listen to me, but I want to make sure that there are women put in positions, and I think you alluded to it, both of you really did, that they were required to keep the family together. And so that, you know, there's a lot of single Black women with children in Black communities, and they are not just maintaining kids, they're raising them. You know, and that is what we're talking about, backbone. When either men are abused, taken to prison, killed in the street, the Black woman's left alone. And she pulled it off, please.
You know, in thinking about that, when I look at some of the questions we're going to be dealing with tonight, when we start really alluding to this strength, this perception of what it means to be that pillar, I think to the latter half of your question about the perception playing out recently, we have to be very careful, because people see that as a compliment, but it also hides a lot of pain. So when I talked about, you know, when your back hurts, everything on your body hurts, think about how Black women feel as the structure. You know, yeah, we're the structure, we're the strength, but at what price are we piling on the next generation to hold that?
That's good. All right. Any further comments?
Yeah, I do want to share too, even though we all kind of have our experiences, but I think most of us decided to go in this field to help others. So I know probably collectively, we'd have helped hundreds of thousands of students. And a lot of students, it terminology you can use, at risk, low income, minority. So the things that you're speaking of, we do have experiences. We grew up with friends in such that manner, and we decided we want to go in education, because that's one strength to empower, is to educate and have knowledge. And so even though we at this point, but how can we help the single mothers or the at-risk students to get to another point? And I know that's the reason I am in education, to empower and to be a connector. Are we helping to go across the aisles? When you talk about the strength of a black woman, I don't know about you all, you go on this side of the room to that meeting with the students, and then you go to the Capitol, because you got to talk about policies and process to get what these students need. And so even though you may not be, I'm not a mother, you may not be a single mom, but you're a woman, and then you're a black woman. How you gonna get it done? You know, how you gonna learn, even though I'm in this circumstance, how am I gonna maneuver that? How I'm gonna make another move? How I'm gonna help the person or my girlfriend next to me move forward? And so even though there are a lot of things that happened in the past, okay, how we gonna move forward for solutions? How we gonna have conversations where, and I like this, there's diverse people in the room, but most meetings that you go to in this area, you got one group of people here, one socioeconomic group of people here, certain group of people here. It's how we go about to connect that so people can understand and provide the resources and access to be able to move forward, and not just a woman or black woman or just a single individual carry on to make a difference.
Excellent. That's good. Okay. All right. Origins of strength. Black mothers and grandmothers have shown incredible strength for generations. Where does this strength come from? And will it continue into the next generation?
I'll start with this one. So strength. When I think of strength, I definitely think of mothers, and I definitely think of black mothers, because they've had to endure so much. And so for me, the strength comes from faith, that you're not in it for yourself. You're in it to help someone else. And you need that strength, you know, whether you believe in God or higher power, whatever you want to call it, there is that faith that gives you that internal personal strength that then you can give out to.
Yeah, I described myself as a person of faith, and it's because I had role models who really showed me that. I had a grandmother who was on her knees praying. You know, I come from a religious, a multi-generational family of religious people. But those people also taught me that you have to work for it. You know, so when I said that I stick to things, that's faithfulness also, because I don't attach myself to things I don't believe in. And so if I'm in, I'm 110%. You know, if I'm going to stay with it, even sometimes when I ought to let it go. You know, because that to me is strength, is seeing something through. And that's been modeled for me. And one of the beautiful things I think about black culture is, you know, many of our African communities were not patriarchal or matriarchal. They were very much communal in mindset and sharing the work. And so we didn't just rely on one gender to model for us. And so yes, I have these strong women in my life, but I have equally strong men that I have seen doing work. And so they taught me that faith that you're talking about. They taught me that you honor things by completing them. And I think that's really where strength comes from.
I also would have to say that strength comes in the ties that you have as well. I mean, I grew up on a dead-end street in Sykeston that was full of life and families and love, and we all looked out for each other. I couldn't do anything a block away without my mother finding out before I got back to the front of the house before the street light came on. And I knew that people were looking out for me. I could drive or ride my bike down the street or my big wheel, and I knew I was going to be protected. Everybody was looking out for me. And you knew you could walk into a house and get a meal. You knew you could walk into a yard and get a hug. You knew that, you know, everything that was going on in that community was, you know, there to make sure you were safe, you were protected, you were loved, you were connected. It was all of those ties that kind of bound us all together. And over our lifetimes, we've stayed connected. We haven't seen each other physically, but when you do see each other, it's like you never left each other. You know, for T. Rose and I have been playing the same game of tic-tac for 40 years. Whenever I see her, you know, that love is there, you know, all of those memories that you have growing up. And I think you draw strength from those connections and the people that you're connected to and what they brought to your life. And you can just sit and remember and have a smile on your face or a tear in your eye because of someone who's not with us anymore, but you remember all the love and all of the knowledge and wisdom that Ms. Robinson shared with me, or, you know, my father shared with us. All of that still is a part of me, and it keeps me strong.
Wow. That sounded, wow, I remember those days. Does those communities still exist? Does anybody live in a black community now that can describe their community like what she just said?
I did. I'll be honest. I lived on the South Side for 20 years. I lived in South Cape. I was a proud resident of South Cape for 20 years, raised my children there, and I can still remember the elders in that neighborhood. Number one, it was the best neighborhood watch you ever want to think about, because they would tell me while I was at work, those older elders, most of them African Americans, were sitting in their windows. And they would say, it was a red car in your yard at 3 o'clock. They told me that, you know, and I watched them. They were there 10 minutes. I don't know what they were doing. They would tell me that. I can still remember Mr. Jim Ayers, beautiful man, that when the lights would go out, somebody hit a transformer or something, and the lights would go out, we would stand on our porches. And he would yell from neighbor to neighbor, "Y'all okay over there?" You know, that was this century, you know, and so I don't want people to think that that's gone away. What the problem is that we don't have other factors that give people the ability to connect in the same way, you know, and that's what we've got to get back to. You know, I work with the Porch Initiative, and that's one of the things we're trying to get back, that neighborhood and community mindset of taking care of your neighbor and knowing that they will also take care of you. I think it's important.
I remember that. Me and your husband remember that community too. We grew up together. Man, he couldn't get away with nothing.
I had no experience like that. I didn't know my neighbors didn't know us. There was none of that at all. So it was a totally.
Hold on a minute, was that a black community?
It wasn't a black community, and that's also part of it.
Oh.
Yeah, so no, that was not an experience at all. I would have loved that experience. In fact, I didn't even get to know my extended family very well. So I knew who my aunts and uncles were, but we didn't spend any time with them. I didn't spend any time with my nephews and nieces or anything like that. So that experience was so unique. In fact, I was telling my husband this, when we talk about education, so I went to schools where me and my sisters were the only black people in the school. And that experience is something, all right? And also, I've never, ever, and I have degrees all the way through a PhD, have had a black professor or black teacher, ever. The first time I encountered a black teacher was for my son when he was in 5th grade, when we moved here. So, you know, so my experiences are very different, and I would have loved to have a community like that.
You would have drew strength from that?
Yes.
Okay. Because the question is also, where does the strength come from as well? She expounded. That community, I'm sure, is where that came from. So we're going to give you an opportunity, Tamika.
Well, when I read this question, the first thing I thought about, you know how when you're young, you have a perception of your parents and your community. When you get older, He was like, that's not really what it was. You know, when you have your own life experiences. I remember my grandma, she lived in Mississippi, Chula, Mississippi. Oh, yeah. I know I look like this, but I like to really go to a small hole in the wall. No, so she would get up. She had her nice brick home. She kept it clean. She cooked. Now we got to go back to the cakes, the pies, all the food you want, all the candy and sweets. And she'd put on her white outfit, and she had her little Nova. It was a blue Nova. And she'd leave, and she'd come back. And so I thought she was a nurse. I mean, what else are you going? Grandma's a nurse. No, Grandma wasn't a nurse. Grandma was going to take care of somebody else's home to make sure they was all right so she can live a certain type of way. Now, strength, my generation, my mom, you know, I'm thinking she a nurse. We focusing on careers now, but during that time, it's certain type of jobs that you was only able to get if you want to be able to take care of your family. And you still got to go take care of somebody else's family, come home and take care of your family, and get up and put on your white, I thought it was her nurse uniform. And so to see her and recognize that she would day in and day out, but still was a grandmother to us, made me feel special. Then I recognized my mom. She married my dad. She worked. She was a professional woman, very intelligent. She worked. She kept the house clean. She cooked meal, breakfast. I'm talking about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And my dad was a provider and a protector. And so, strength, they carry out their duties, like Tamara, Dr. Buck said, and follow through and do what they need to have a healthy, productive, successful family and for the next generation. Well, you could do that for your kids, but what if you don't have any children? So I gather my strength for the work that I do. Strength comes in different ways. This generation displays strength in a certain way. Each generation is different. That doesn't make the strength less. Now, when you watch your mother do a lot of stuff, when you get older and learn how to do things, we got to do all that? You know, I'm going to find another way to do that and get 3 or 4 other people to help me do that because, you know, a black woman will do 10 jobs, and when they can't do it no more, they not here. 10 people got to do the job that one person did. So I just want to give you an example of something I'm excited about. Through my program, I used to do a lot of programming, and I would do the programming by myself from the beginning to the end, whether if it's creating it, developing, marketing, implementing it, teaching it, wear myself out, because that's how I worked. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to empower my students, 4 or 5 of them. Let's do different pieces of the project. You focus on professional and leadership development. You work together as a team. This is how you gather your strength, and this is how you can move forward to work smarter and harder, but you still have strength. So our job as women or as a community is to gather the strength that we used to seeing, what we use, and how we can effectively implement that to students or within our community to move forward. So that's my perspective on that. And I thought Grandma was a nurse.
That's good. All right. That is excellent. So obviously the next generation, we're optimistic. Excellent. Okay. Women versus men. Uh-oh. Did feminism, in its American manifestation, create a division in the black family? Were women of color truly a part of the American feminist movement?
No and no. That's a very simple answer. Feminism was never inclusive. Neither were the post-Civil War constitutional amendments that gave these freedoms. Neither was the constitutional amendment that gave women the right to vote. None of this stuff thought about us. You know, they may have thought about gender, they may have thought about class, but they thought about those through very white lenses. You know, so did feminism consider us? No, because there's this intersectionality between race, gender, and class, that most people don't have to think about. You know, I don't have to just think about being a woman. I have to be thinking about being a black woman everywhere. I've told my students one time, I said, you know, I think about race every day because I encounter something dealing with my race and gender every day. You know, and so no, feminism wasn't about us. And we were not included in that movement except tangentially. It was nice to have the numbers, but there's no need in me being a part of a movement that's not going to benefit me in any real way.
She took my answer.
I think, you know, the terminology that I use every day in terms of talking about being a feminist or equity or diversity or being inclusive, those were not a part of my vocabulary growing up. But I think, you know, our parents did a lot to instill certain values in us that we can now give those names or those terms to. We didn't know what they meant back then. My mother was definitely, she didn't care what gender you were when it came to the household and your role and your responsibilities. We all did everything we were told to do to keep the household clean, to cook, you know, to make sure the yard was okay, that, you know, we were a family. So you did what you needed to do to keep the family going and to make sure that your household was okay. And that now, of course, I would say she was probably more of a feminist than I realized back then. But I think my father was a feminist as well. At a certain point, my mom was a full-time mother for the 8 other kids that she had. When I came along, my dad was disabled, so he stayed home and she went to work. And my father got me up in the morning. He got me on the bus. When I came home, he was there. He made dinner for us. He washed clothes. When my mother came home, he made her dinner and took it to her. So, what? Yes. No. All right. But again, it was a part of the family. It was not because he had to do it. It was because he wanted to do it, because they did for each other. And I think, you know, again, my dad was a feminist if you put that spin on it.
Okay. Ladies? Did feminism divide the black family?
I'm gonna go off Tamara's lead because she just really, you know, setting the tone right here. But the thing I think about is like what Dr. Buck said, is that every day you have to think about being a woman of color. And so I used to be an athlete. So every day I smile, I keep going. But almost like every day you got to put your game face on. Here we go. Being in leadership roles now, I serve as presidents and vice chairs of local and state organizations. Sometimes, no, most of the time, 99% of the time, I'm the only sister. And
what's a sister?
A woman of color, the backbone with you. So what you go against, I have my girlfriends here, me and her go back and forth. Women have some of the same issue, and then being a black woman had some of the same issues. So you still have to fight for what you believe in and fight for who you are at the table to lead, so you can be respected and valued. And so the black woman has always kind of been in a fight for feminism. I don't think it divided the black family. We find other ways to garner strength and to lead and to be the backbone in the community, because you can't survive without being connected to the community, because it's only so many groups of a population of people can make stuff happen. You have to connect with other people to make things happen. And I think we fight that fight every day, and I think we fight that fight every day for the community constituents and the students that we serve. So we're not battling for us, we're battling for others too. So I think the backbone has He needs to be a little stronger now, Dr. Buck.
What is a feminist? Who can give me a definition? Dr. Scott?
A feminist is a person who believes that females are just as equal as males and things.
Okay. We got some feminists out there. Well, we all feminists then. We all should be feminists.
That's right.
Okay, let's keep it moving. Dependent on independence. The narrative we are often told is that black women feel, I can take care of myself. I don't need a man. As strong, successful women, can you share with us why this idea persists, mostly in the black community? Does it minimize the importance of the black man in the community? I don't need a man.
I'm gonna talk a little bit about this, and my experiences, of course, are very different from a lot of the experiences here, but, and I alluded to this earlier, I just feel like the black man has a target on his back. Our black men have so many obstacles that they have to go through just to make it through life. And, you know, on Tuesday they had the media portrayal of things. And, you know, and I was thinking about that. And the first thing is you think about just how a man is portrayed in the media. And so a man in the media is going to be someone who's a buffoon, right? Or a womanizer. And it's very interesting. If they're a hero, with the exception of Black Panther, they don't have a wife or a family to support because they can't do all that and also have a family. So think about it. Superman, Batman, think about all the superheroes, right? And so just the man in general, but then when you add a black man into the mix, how are they portrayed in the media, right? They're the ones who are the killer or the, you know, they're the drug dealer, they're the thug, you know, so it's black men, I'm not a black man, but black men, they've got to overcome so much. You know, I was thinking about educational statistics. And so educationally, a black male is starting a university is going to typically drop out, like 2/3 of them, after the first year. So if that happens, then of course they're not getting graduate degrees, right? And so we already know that there are more black women in the university. And so, and then because of that, you see there's more black women getting master's degree. There's more black women getting PhDs. So then they need to find their counterpart. And so then you have a woman who has a master's degree, and then the man, the black man, doesn't feel like her equal educationally because he's not. And it's because of some of the roadblocks that are getting there. And so I think for black men, black women are there to help and support. And the community needs to do that. So we need programs and social things and societal ways that we change things and cultural things that we do to let the black man know that he is human and that he is strong and is a pillar of community. So I just wanted to, you know, because black women need black men too, so.
Yeah, I feel seen by some of what you said. Since I am a journalist and I do chair a Department of Mass Media, one of the things that we are doing in my department is talking about those exact things. Representation matters, and we definitely have to change the way women, and black women especially, but We have to get away from these stereotypes, these monoliths that suggest that you can only be one way. You know, we definitely must get away from that. Now, to this issue of I can do bad by myself, which is really what we're saying here, you know, it's just a very pragmatic way of thinking. This idea that I don't need a man, we have trained ourselves to say that because there have been so many men taken away from us. You know, they've been taken away by the educational system. They've been taken away by the judicial system. They've been taken away by people killing us, you know, law enforcement or otherwise, through lynching and all of these different ways. The black man, and I want to say man and not male because I want to make sure we humanize our partners, but the black man has been stripped away from black women to such a degree that we have to say that to survive, to keep going. But, you know, pragmatism doesn't necessarily have to be the truth. You know what I mean? So we have to get to a place where I can live without a man. Does not necessarily mean I have to or I want to. You know, I can doesn't mean that that's the best situation for me. You know, I'm not married to a overly educated man. But he is one of the he is one of the smartest men that I know. And I take him everywhere proudly. You know, I can take him to any conference that I am and know that he's going to have a better conversation in many places than I would in that same space. My dad was the same way. My mom has a master's degree. My dad had an MR because he got married. He went to college and found his wife, and then, you know. But again, my dad, one of the smartest people and one of the best policy writers that I know. We got to get away from thinking about equality and this line box checking kind of thing and really just look at the heart of a person. Am I evenly yoked with this person?
That's amazing. And I guess I'll be more personal with this question because I am, according to the government, single with no dependents. I will say yes. Does that mean that, you know, that I am independent or that I don't need a man? I would say that I can definitely take care of myself. It doesn't mean that I don't need anyone. It means that I do what I need to do to take care of myself. Would I like someone else to be my partner and to assist me and go through my life with me? Absolutely. I mean, we are human. We need love. We need companionship. We need support. I know the things in me that will balance me out. I know, I mean, it doesn't mean that you're not strong if you can't lean on somebody. Amen. So I think that I definitely would not minimize the role men have played in my life. I have 5 older brothers and my father, and I knew what a real man was, you know, my entire life. And I know when there's a real man not in front of me, too. So. All right. So yes, I think, you know, men are amazing, and sometimes you do need to have other folks. I mean, strength and partnership. Those are go hand in hand to me.
Wow, excellent.
It's my turn. I think I'd do the check box with Mrs. Rucker over there. Well, I'll just things that come to mind when people meet me, or they hear about me, or they'll see me. I've been getting this a lot lately. You're almost too strong. You're a strong woman. You know, okay, I was like, well, you're not ready for me. Have a great day, but I don't say that. I just smile. You ain't strong enough yet, but I can train you. But no. So I think society has set up what success looked like for a woman. But if we go back to the backbone and strength, my mom was very intelligent, top of her class. She attended college, her and my dad, but they didn't continue on. They both got married and, had a family. And then when I started working at Southeast and worked with the College Access Program, I was like, oh, I'm a first-generation college student. It took all but, 25, 30 years to realize that, because they have different terms. But she never said you have to get married. She never said you needed a man. She never said, are you going to have grandkids and kids for me? She always let me make the decision for my life. So a strong, strength woman, a backbone, a positive, confident woman, my mother allowed me to let me decide what my journey would be. Now, I think that's very important. I think people think you graduate high school, you go to college, you find your husband in college, then y'all get married, y'all find y'all 2 jobs, you get that house with the picket fence, don't forget the dog. And, and so we have to think about what success look like for us as individuals. And that may be a mate, it may be a companion, may be a partner, your husband or a wife you've been married to for 30 or 40 years, but own who you are. Once you realize who you are, then you can make a decision how you want to lead your life. Then you can determine how successful your life is, and don't let no one else determine that. And so I get all types of stuff going back and forth to me about different things, but all I do is smile, and wherever I'm at, I'm having a good time. And so that's most important. And another thing, I'm with Dr. Buck on this and everyone else. I'm an educator, I have a couple degrees too. Some of the men, like she said, may not be as educated because of experiences and resources and not having certain access, but they some of the most intelligent men. And when I go to different meetings or have things going on at work, you know who I'm calling? A brother, what do you think about this? That may stay in the background, give you some word of advice so you can have the strength to deal with what's going on out here. And I think that's why important, that's how some men have your backbone in that regard. So I think people minimize education and labor. If you're with somebody that do hands-on labor, they not as significant. And who do more labor work, hourly work, that don't have benefits, vacation? African Americans. Who was dying more, have more health issues? African Americans, they don't have insurance. COVID-19, they don't have insurance. They have a lot of underlying conditions. And society make you think these are less than, but these were the heroes of a time of crisis, but still don't get their just dues. So that's my thought on that. But don't get me wrong, me and Sonya do be dating, we hang out. No. Everybody had their own time when they meet their,
So, Dr. Scott, did you have anything to add to that? Okay. Because it sounds like, was this a mad black woman that, you don't need no man, told their daughter that?
She probably was getting older and her options was limited. Remember this, ladies. You take care of yourself, you got options, you still good. Well, your options start getting limited, you're like, oh, ain't nobody out there. Then you start getting the cat and the dog and all that stuff, it's over. Don't do it.
All right. Pass the baton. Okay, this is our final question for the evening, guys, I believe. Let's say next year the black man wants to win the Black Community Backbone Award. We want a piece. How would you advise him?
Find him a strong black woman.
Hello.
You agree with that, Pat?
He gotta go home tonight, so
I say go for it. And bring people with you. Don't just do it alone. Bring people with you.
Yeah, and I think some black men are fearful that we have been in charge so long, we've been strong so long, that we want to be in charge. No, we just want to talk to you. That's all it is, I don't want to think sometimes. I would be happy.
You don't want to make a decision?
Right.
No. I don't care what we eat tonight. Just go ahead. I'll just ride.
So,
yes.
baby, if you want it, I will stand right next to you and let you have it.
Is that true, ladies?
Yes.
But y'all the backbone.
We provide structure. That's why we have to work together.
Okay, I got you. All right. It's still open. What advice how would you advise? How do I get the award?
You know, when you're dealing with men, you know.
Is that one of your degrees?
That's for another panel. That's for another panel. So I don't want, you be careful the language you use. I don't want to talk to a brother or a man. You know, I got to advise you how you need to make this move on this award. He's going to be just looking at you. Oh, okay. Yeah, uh-huh. It's important the language you use if we want man to be backbone or be more upfront, not that they're not a backbone. Babe, how can we talk to guide us through this process so we can work together and be a structure, as a whole structure, as a family structure, as a community structure? So I think language is important, and understanding where the man is and where the woman is, because he may have those characteristics as a backbone that the woman have, and you talk about them, you communicate, you discuss it. It's the language you use. It's taking time to listen and hear, and how are you moving forward collectively? A lot of times we do a lot of things individually, but collectively you have strength in numbers. So that's how I would see that. I have a lot. I'm like Dr. Buck. My father, my uncles, my cousins, you know, all of them, you know, they were strong backbones for our family. The women were just more vocal. But I think, and even I do business like this, sometimes I don't have certain people go with me because I know I can make more of a difference if I go myself. Let me start with this stage first and this phase, and then I bring you in. You got to strategize, and I think that's what women do, such as ourselves, and then maybe the companion who you're ever dealing with in the same way.
That's good. That's good. Okay. Me and my wife has this conversation all the time, and I told her, try me.
So you can't say the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly. No, a lot of men have a problem with their woman making more money than them, or more successful than them, or they're in the spotlight. And I said, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. And we see a lot of examples of that, but I think that there's a lot of men that are able and willing. I think you guys have spoken about your families, and some of the men in your families don't have to be in the spotlight. They don't have to be the breadwinner. And this is something that we want black women to know, even though you might have your examples out here where the woman is famous or rich and the guy can't handle it. Please be famous and rich. I won't have a problem with that. Just want that on the record. All right, so what we want to do, I think that's the last question, but what I want to do is give these ladies 60 seconds just to start thinking about their final comment, what legacy they want to leave on this moment. What would you share with the community or the people, or this is eternalized on film forever? We might just cut this part out. This is what Dr. Buck said, this is what Dr. Scott, this was. So, final thoughts, and we will start from this side this time. Okay? Let's make sure there's no more questions. There we go. Perfect. All right.
Well, the thing that comes across to me is know your value and worth. Do not let anyone dictate or determine how valuable and what your worth is. Do not compare your journey to somebody else's journey. People look at me, I'm in the 40 and up league, going to almost 50 on the other side. I know, I'm looking right here, it looks good. I do not compare myself to a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old or a 60 or 70. I learn from them. Knowing what lane you're in, understanding this is your race, owning it, embracing it, being confident in it, and don't let nobody tell you otherwise, because most of the time they jealous and want to do some stuff you want to do anyway. So I got one little note. My sister, she's educated too, but she's a wife. She decided to stay at home and take care of her kids, and she got a husband, and me, I'm single, no husband, no kids. And so sometimes we'll complain a little bit about, she may complain a little bit about what's going on with her, I complain a little bit, and then she said, you set your life up like that, right? And then we just stopped talking. And I asked her, did you set your life up? And then we stopped talking. Let's go to another subject. So the decisions you make today affect you. So think about the decisions that you make, because they go with you decade after decade.
That's really, really hard for 60 seconds.
Take your time.
But I think I'm going to do some 2 L's and an F. Yeah, exactly. So the 2 L's, the first one is love. And, and it starts with loving your God, your creator, and loving yourself, and loving your neighbors. And, a lot can get solved with some love. Give people some grace, because we all trying, and we all stumbling. We all going to make mistakes. And so just have a little bit of grace and love in that. So the first L is love. Now, the second one is legacy. And I say that because the older I get, the more important it is to me to live and to leave a legacy for the future generations. And, at the university, I really look for students that I can mentor and help them along the journey. And I never, it's always they want to learn and grow from strong women, black women that have come before them. And so love and legacy. And then the F is faith. Don't forget your faith, because that's what's going to sustain you, and that's what's going to pull you through some of those troubled times. Because guess what? You're going to have troubled times. And so love, leave a legacy, and have faith.
I think my first piece of advice would be to really get yourself a strong community. I traveled back and forth for 5 years going to law school while maintaining a full-time job and owning a business here in town. I could not have done that without my best friends, without my church family, without my parents and my extended family. I had a community that would help me make sure that my kids took a bath when their dad was keeping them. Because daddies don't babysit, by the way. Daddies keep their kids. But he was, when they were, but there were women who would check in and make sure that daddy was bathing the kids and feeding them a real meal and not just McDonald's. And, get yourself a community that's going to support you as you try to achieve your dreams, as you get that lane identified. You're going to need that community, and that's something, again, that dates back to African principles, that we have a community mindset. That community mindset requires you to be mindful of what's happening in your community also. You have to pay attention to the issues and concerns of those around you because they affect you. So I would say pay attention to the community, and then also establish boundaries that help you to protect your physical and mental and emotional well-being. We talk about strength. It's not strong to suffer in silence. That's the one thing I love about this next generation. We brag on them all the time, but they really are taking care of their mental health. And I appreciate that, because it's something, black women especially, we are at the top of every health disparity because we are always taking care of other people. I want them to take care of themselves. So that's a part of what I would say also.
Oh, that's good. Excellent.
Wow, it's tough to follow.
That's good.
So in the beginning, the word I used to describe myself was evolving, and I think that's important to remember. I'll have to say in about 10 months, I'll be turning 50. So
Next month.
And, those milestone birthdays, you start to think, about what you've done, what you've accomplished. My mother, she turned 90 this year. So if I live to be even anywhere close to that, I hope that this is not it for me. I hope that I can continue to grow and be a better person. I can be kinder, I can be stronger, I can be smarter, I can have more grace, I can be more loving. I mean, so evolving is important, and I think sometimes we do get caught up in the titles. I hope that this is not the last title I have. I hope this is not the last zero I get added to my paycheck. I hope, I hope that maybe one day the government will say I am now married with no dependents. So I am evolving, and I think that we all should, learn something new, have different goals. Maybe this is not the career that I'll be in 5 years from now. Maybe something else will, cause me to decide I want to do something different. And, I want to be more involved in the community. There are so many ways that we can continue to grow, so don't put limits on yourself. And we should be evolving all the time.
Come on, keep it together. Keep putting it together. These ladies are wonderful. Isn't that wonderful? Awesome, 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 awesome. We might have to do an encore. Wow, that is excellent. Let me pray, and I can dismiss you guys. This has just been such a wonderful evening. I want to give a lot of props to Southeast. Southeast actually came to us and said, we want to do this thing for Black History. I'm giving props to Mr. Trent Ball, was very passionate, and so much help, too, is Tatiana Hanna. Wow, the department, I think it's the department you run, yes. Right?
Equity, Access, and Behavioral Health. Tatiana Hanna is my grad assistant, and Trent Ball is the Associate Vice President of Equity, Access, and Behavioral Health.
Excellent. You guys believe this was a successful panel? Excellent. All right, Father, we just thank you for everyone on the panel. We just ask that you be with them, bless everyone that they love. We ask that your favor be upon their lives. We ask that you answer their prayers, give them peace, help them get home safe, and we thank you, Lord God, for what you're doing in every life. Bring them peace, prosperity, and health until they meet you again. In Jesus' name we pray and give thanks. Amen. Thank you guys for coming, everyone.
For word, not many skirts. You best believe what you heard. We are the church. We got our eyes on the prize. This ain't rehearsed. Don't need no pie in the sky. We do the work. Yeah. Don't be afraid. We act a little peculiar. Whether in the street or in the church, they know who we are. You ain't gon' lose nothing. Get up and move something. Don't be deterred by all them fools sitting in the pew. If you don't wanna praise, that's okay. If you don't wanna rocks to roll, don't need no Rolling Stones. If you need some praise and worship, if you don't wanna praise, if you don't wanna praise, if you don't wanna move, just move to the left. Don't need no rocks to roll, don't need no Rolling Stones. If you need some praise and worship, looking for blessing, chasing money, praising, no way. Looking for praying, staying humble, that's me all day. Can't get to work and hurting, you need a ride. Dial 385-1259 and let's ride. He gave the car the seats and the gas in it. To help my brother, man, that's why he sent it. He filled my cup with it to lift him up